I'm 78 years old, and I'm writing this from a cot in a homeless shelter in Sacramento, California. The woman sleeping 3 feet away from me snores like a chainsaw. The fluorescent lights buzz all night. I keep my shoes on when I sleep because someone stole my last pair 2 months ago. 30 years ago, I had $847,000 in retirement savings. I owned a 4-bedroom house in a nice suburb. I drove a Lexus. I took my grandchildren to Disneyland twice a year. I was comfortable. I was secure. I thought I was smart. I was an idiot. My name is Patricia, and I destroyed my own life with 7 financial mistakes so catastrophically stupid that I still can't believe I made them. And the worst part? Every single one of them seemed reasonable at the time. Every single one of them was something everyone else was doing. Every single one of them was a choice millions of people are making right now. If you're sitting in your comfortable home thinking this could never happen to you, that's exactly what I thought, and that's exactly why it will. It was June 1994. I was 48 years old. My husband Richard had just died of pancreatic cancer. He was 52. We'd been married for 26 years. We had 2 kids, both grown and out of the house, and Richard left me with more money than I'd ever imagined having. Richard was an engineer, practical, cautious, boring, if I'm honest. He'd saved and invested religiously for 30 years. He had a pension, he had life insurance, he had investments I didn't understand and didn't care about. When he died, his financial advisor sat me down and explained that I was worth $847,000. $847,000 in 1994. Do you understand what that was worth? Do you understand what I could have done with that money if I hadn't been such a spectacular fool? The financial advisor, his name was Tom. He gave me a plan. He showed me charts and graphs. He said if I lived modestly, if I didn't touch the principal, if I let the investments grow, I'd have income for life. I'd never have to worry about money again. I listened, I nodded, I signed papers, and then I proceeded to ignore every word he said. Because I was 48 years old, and I'd spent 26 years married to a man who said no to everything. No, we can't take that vacation. No, we can't buy that car. No, we can't remodel the kitchen. No, no, no. 26 years of no. And suddenly, Richard was gone and I had almost $1 million and nobody to tell me no anymore. That was mistake number 1. Thinking money solves grief. 2 months after Richard died, I bought a new car. Not a practical car. A Mercedes convertible, cherry red, cost me $64,000. I told myself I deserved it. I told myself Richard would have wanted me to enjoy life. I told myself it was just one purchase. It wasn't just one purchase. It was the first crack in a dam that was about to break. 3 months after the car, I remodeled the kitchen. Completely gutted it. Granite countertops, custom cabinets, professional-grade appliances cost me $78,000. I told myself it was an investment in the house. I told myself Richard had always promised we'd do it someday. I told myself I was finally living. 6 months after Richard died, I took my daughter Jennifer and her 2 kids to Hawaii. First-class flights, 5-star resort, every excursion, every restaurant, everything they wanted, cost me $23,000 for 2 weeks. But I got to be the generous grandmother. I got to see them happy. I got to feel like something other than a widow. Mistake number 2. Using money to buy love and distract from pain. The spending felt good. It felt like living. After 26 years of Richard's caution and penny pinching and saying no to everything, I was finally saying yes. Yes to the kitchen. Yes to the trips. Yes to the car. Yes to life. Tom, the financial advisor, called me every few months. "Patricia, you're drawing down the principal too fast. You need to slow down. You need to stick to the plan." I'd say, "Tom, I'm fine. I have plenty of money. Stop worrying." But I wasn't fine, and I didn't have plenty of money, not the way I was spending it. Year one after Richard died, I spent $287,000. On what? I honestly couldn't tell you. The car, the kitchen, the trips, clothes, dinners, gifts for the kids, this and that and the other thing. Money just evaporated, and my account balance dropped to $560,000. Tom called. "Patricia, this is serious. At this rate, you'll run out of money in 5 years." "Tom," I said, "I'm grieving. I'm entitled to enjoy myself. Mind your own business." I fired him 3 weeks later because he was right and I couldn't stand hearing it. Mistake number 3, firing the people who tell you the truth. Year 2, I spent less, only $156,000. I was being good, I told myself, being responsible, but $156,000 was still way more than my investments were earning. My balance dropped to $404,000. I'd burned through almost $500,000 in 2 years. But I didn't see it that way. I saw that I still had over $400,000. That's a lot of money, right? I was fine. Then my son David came to me with an opportunity. David was 32. He'd been working in sales, doing okay, nothing spectacular. And he had this idea for a business. A franchise, actually. One of those frozen yogurt places that were everywhere in the late 90s. He said it was a guaranteed moneymaker. He said the franchise company showed him projections. He said he just needed $180,000 to get started. "Mom," he said, "this is my chance. This is my opportunity to build something. Dad always said no when I asked him to invest in my ideas. Please don't be like Dad." That line, "Please don't be like Dad," that's the line that cost me everything. Mistake number 4, investing in your children's dreams instead of your own security. I gave David $180,000, not a loan, a gift, because he was my son and I loved him and I wanted to support him in a way Richard never had. The frozen yogurt place opened in March 1998. By December 1998, it was closed. David said the location was wrong. David said the franchise company had lied about the projections. David said it wasn't his fault. My $180,000 was gone, just gone, and my balance was down to $224,000. I was 52 years old. I'd had $847,000 4 years earlier. Now I had barely a quarter of that left. I should have panicked. I should have stopped spending. I should have gotten a job. I should have done something, anything, to stop the hemorrhaging. But I didn't, because I still thought I had plenty, because I couldn't imagine actually running out, because the idea of being poor was so foreign, so impossible, that my brain just refused to process it as a real possibility. Mistake number 5, believing it can't happen to you. I kept spending, not as much as before, but more than I had. I took the grandkids on trips. I bought them gifts. I helped Jennifer when she said she was struggling with bills. I redecorated the living room. I bought art I didn't understand from a gallery I couldn't afford. I lived like someone who had money because I couldn't imagine being someone who didn't. By 2003, I was 57 years old, and I had $89,000 left. The stock market crash of 2002 hadn't helped, but mostly it was just me, spending and spending and spending, watching the balance drop and doing nothing to stop it. That's when the house started falling apart. The roof needed replacing. The furnace died. The plumbing sprung leaks. All the things Richard used to maintain, all the things I'd ignored for 9 years, they all came due at once. The repairs cost $47,000. I had to take it out of my savings. My balance dropped to $42,000. I was 57 years old with $42,000 to my name, and I still didn't have a job. I hadn't worked in 30 years. Richard had always insisted I stay home with the kids, and I'd been happy to do it. But now, who was going to hire a 57-year-old woman with no recent work experience? I tried. I applied to retail stores, to offices, to anywhere I could think of. I got 3 interviews in 6 months. No offers. I was too old, too expensive, too out of touch. They never said that, but I knew. By 2005, my savings were gone. Completely gone. I had $3,200 in my checking account, and that was it. I started using credit cards, just for essentials, I told myself, just to get by until I figured something out. But the essentials kept expanding. Groceries, sure, but also cable TV and dinners out, and gifts for the grandkids because I couldn't stand the thought of them thinking Grammy was poor, and new clothes because the old ones were worn out, and this and that and the other thing. Mistake number 6. Using credit cards to maintain a lifestyle you can no longer afford. Within 2 years, I had $67,000 in credit card debt spread across 11 cards. The minimum payments alone were $1,400 a month. I had no income except Social Security, which was $1,147 a month because I'd never worked enough to earn more. The math didn't work. $1,047 in income, $1,400 in credit card minimums, $447 left for everything else. Utilities, food, gas, property taxes, house insurance, everything. It was impossible. I stopped paying the credit cards. What choice did I have? They called constantly. Letters piled up, threats of lawsuits. I ignored all of it because there was nothing I could do. Then the property tax bill came, $6,200. I didn't have it. I'd never not paid my property taxes. Richard had always handled that. I didn't even know what happened if you didn't pay. I found out. The county files a lien, and if you don't pay for 3 years, they can take your house. I didn't pay for 3 years. I kept thinking I'd figure something out. I kept thinking David or Jennifer would help me. I kept thinking something would change. Nothing changed. In 2011, I was 65 years old, and the county foreclosed on my house. The house Richard and I had lived in for 32 years. The house where I raised my children. The house I'd remodeled with money I should have saved. Gone. The bank sold it at auction for $340,000. After paying off the remaining mortgage and the back taxes and the fees, there was $89,000 left. That should have been my second chance. That should have been enough to start over, to get a small apartment, to stabilize. But I was 65 and I was tired and I was so angry. Angry at Richard for dying. Angry at David for losing my money. Angry at Jennifer for not helping more. Angry at the county for taking my house. Angry at myself for being such a spectacular failure. And when you're angry and tired and 65 years old, and you have $89,000 that feels like both a fortune and an insult, you make stupid decisions. Mistake number 7. Trying to make back in the market what you lost through stupidity. A guy I met at a coffee shop, his name was Rick, told me about cryptocurrency. This was 2011, early days of Bitcoin. He said it was going to revolutionize everything. He said people were making millions. He said it was my chance to recover everything I'd lost. I didn't understand cryptocurrency. I still don't. But Rick seemed smart and confident, and he showed me charts that went up and up and up. And I wanted so badly to believe I could fix this. I wanted to believe I could get back to where I'd been. I wanted to not be the old woman who'd pissed away a fortune. I gave Rick $75,000 to invest for me. He said he'd handle everything. He said to trust him. 3 months later, Rick was gone. The cryptocurrency he'd invested in didn't exist. It was a scam. My money was gone. All of it. Again. I had $14,000 left. That's what remained of my life with Richard. That's what remained of $847,000. $14,000. I rented a studio apartment in a bad neighborhood. It cost $650 a month. Between rent and utilities, I had about $800 a month left from Social Security for food and everything else. I thought I could make it work. I thought I'd finally hit bottom and now I'd stabilize. But your body doesn't care about your financial situation. Your body just keeps getting older and breaking down and needing things you can't afford. I developed diabetes in 2013. The medication cost $340 a month, even with Medicare. I couldn't afford it, and food and rent. So I skipped doses, rationed pills. My blood sugar went crazy. I ended up in the emergency room twice, which led to bills I couldn't pay, which led to more debt, which led to collections. My teeth started falling apart. Years of neglect, years of not being able to afford a dentist. I needed thousands of dollars of work. I had $0 for dental work. I stopped smiling. I stopped talking to people. I stopped leaving the apartment except when I had to. In 2016, I was 70 years old, and my landlord raised my rent to $850. I couldn't afford it. I begged him not to raise it. He said he had bills too. He said if I couldn't pay, he'd find someone who could. I couldn't pay. He evicted me. I moved to a cheaper place, $550 for a room in a house with 3 other people. The bathroom didn't lock. The heat barely worked, but it was all I could afford. That lasted 2 years. Then that landlord sold the house. We all had to leave. By 2018, I was 72 years old, and I couldn't find anywhere I could afford. Studios were going for $900, $1,000, $1,200 more than my entire Social Security check, and nobody wanted to rent to a 72-year-old woman with terrible credit and no references and no income beyond Social Security. I stayed with David for 3 months. He and his wife fought constantly about me being there. His wife said I was a burden. She said I'd made my choices and now I had to live with them. She wasn't wrong. David gave me $500 and told me I had to leave. "Mom," he said, "I love you, but we can't do this. You have to figure it out." I stayed with Jennifer for 2 months. Same story. Her husband was kinder about it, but the message was the same. They had their own kids to worry about. They had their own bills. They couldn't support me forever. "Mom," Jennifer said, and she was crying. "How did you let this happen? Dad left you almost $1 million. How did you lose it all?" "I don't know," I said, but that was a lie. I knew exactly how. 7 mistakes, 7 stupid, preventable, catastrophic mistakes. In November 2018, I moved into my car, a 2003 Honda Civic I'd bought for $2,100 in cash. I parked in Walmart parking lots and church parking lots and anywhere else they wouldn't kick me out. I washed in gas station bathrooms. I ate whatever I could afford from dollar stores. The car lasted 2 years. Then it died, and I couldn't afford to fix it. So I sold it for $300 to a junkyard. And that's when I ended up here. The shelter, the cot, the woman who snores, the fluorescent lights. This is what $847,000 becomes when you make 7 catastrophically stupid mistakes.